Good morning, everyone. Yes, it is a surprise. I am here solo. If any of you know where Ark is, please let me know. I hope he's okay. Good morning, all of you lovely people. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, my other account. Morning, Thad, Space Zombie, Roman. Hello, lovely late art. How are you doing this lovely morning? We have a special guest, guys. Oh my gosh. Hello, Mr. Tolkien. How are you doing today? It's a very big honor for you to be on my channel. I'm a little starstruck at this moment. Very good image that you have for your profile pic. Very good. Quite good, sir. That when I was 10, read this for the first time, I had an absurd image of Tinuviel Beansar making his former cross between Barbara Svel and Freddy Krueger. Oh, that is a terrifying thought. Good morning, Var. How are you doing today? Making sure that my contacts are not going to jump out of my eyeballs again. Under a Balrog, no doubt. Probably sleeping. He was gaming late, but shh. You didn't hear that from me. That's okay. I just want to make sure he's okay. I was a little concerned, but the show must go on, as they say in the show business. How is everyone doing this fine Saturday morning? It is the Saturday. Yesterday was interesting. Yesterday was a Friday, and it kind of went by very quickly, and I was not expecting Saturday to be here so soon. Uh, Anywho, updates, news for you all. So next week, my friend who periodically hops into my chats, Smile a While for Me, will actually be on the channel next week. It's amazing. It's glorious. I don't know, like she is coming all the way down from Minnesota to visit me. This is the first Saturday in weeks where I don't feel like crap physically. I'm glad that you're feeling better, Thad. I'm glad that you're feeling better. But yes, next week I will be bringing on my friend Smile. Ooh, that was weird. I didn't mean to do that. Say it that way. Smile a While for Me. She and I have been friends for many years now, and I'm so excited to bring her on to this show for you guys to meet in person. She is fabulous, wonderful. I'm going to say all of the nice things about her this week because she's not going to be able to make it in the chat today. So I'm going to say all of the things about her, and she can't do anything about it. Hello, A2D2. I do what I want. Good morning. Yes. Yes, I do what I want. But yeah, so next week we will, yes, also of course the Rings of Poopy are going to be out, and I'm sure we'll probably touch on that a smidge. But next week's topic of discussion and conversation will actually be a very different one than our normal what we've been doing here for Tolkien. We will actually next week be talking about homeschooling, and then we'll be getting to know a little bit about my friend because she was homeschooled and kind of her experience as far as being homeschooled, what she thinks about it, what did she learn, and what are also some of her favorite pieces of literature or books that she has read that have had a big impact on her. And of course, we will ask her the big question: how has Tolkien impacted her life, and all of that good thing. So I am excited for it next week, and I hope that all of you definitely tune in next week and get the icky Amazon Rings of Poopy cleansing palette stream. We will be doing a very different stream than normal, and I'm excited, and yes. So it's going to be exciting next week. I am excited and also nervous because of course Amazon is at it again. I looked up some articles this morning about the Rings of Poop, and apparently everyone's just raving about it. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's the bestest ever. Of course, we all know exactly how we feel about that. And I digress. I'm also trying to kind of stall, and hopefully Ark will come on. But it's okay. I can man the ship solo. I have manned many a ship solo. So today can just be about you, chat, and myself. Let's see. Let me read in chat, because I'm reading chat on a couple of different things, because I realized with StreamYards it is delayed like a good second, and it's frustrating how far back it's delayed. Is everyone defined as the shills on social media conference call with the showrunners? Amazon's rings of projectile poopy. Yes. Yes. You don't need no man like my girl Galadriel. Oh, Amazon's Queen Galadriel, like Queen Latifah. But Galadriel don't need to be like Queen Latifah because she's Galadriel. But hey, what would I know about that? I'm just a strunk whammon. Oh man. So yes, we will be discussing the first chapter of the Book of Lost Tales Part 2. For those of you who have been following along with us, we have been going through the Book of Lost Tales because it is part of the 13 Histories of Middle-earth, which all of you who are consider yourselves Tolkien lovers and want to preserve Tolkien's legacy should buy the 13 histories. Granted, it's a lot of money, so don't buy them all in one place if you don't want to. Jacob, don't make me vomit. If you want a temporary guest to bounce some stuff until Ark gets here, I can drop in. Sure, give me a second. You've read this chapter, right? Dad? Yes? Yes, I think you've read this chapter. Let me figure out how to do the thing. Pull up this thing, do a couple things there. Is that him texting me? Nope, that is not. Let me pull up the thing. I don't consider myself a Tolkien lover, but I'm going to but I'm open to getting converted. Awesome, Space Zombie. That's what we like to hear. We like to hear proper open-mindedness, not the where your brain is literally open and people are just pouring junk into it open-mindedness, but the willingness to listen to other ideas and other people's opinion. Oh my god. All right, so let me copy the clipboard. Ladar. Oh, same? Okay. Yes, that is the lore master. So I will send you a link on the twat. That should be it. So yeah, we'll see if Ark is able to get himself out of his slumber. But it's fine. It's fine. Either way, not for like 8 years. Probably have an article or two to discuss. Ark prepped for it. So, would want him to do that. Okay, yes. I do have a couple of articles that we can go through first, and then we can go through the actual material after that. We'll see how it goes. But yes, we do have some articles to read. And of course, like those of you who thought that the articles wouldn't just get cringier and cringier as the Rings of Power continued to get closer and closer to its impending doom. Like literally when I looked up some stuff today about the Rings of Power, it's just positive reviews. Wow, the audience. The Rings of Power is going to be me. It's like, oh, that's lovely. So let's see. We're going to actually share. I'm going to do 2 articles instead of the normal 3. I'm open-minded. Let's see. I am open-minded to recommendations for books, movies, and recipes. That's it. Okay, everyone's got their thing, and I respect that. All right, so I'm going to share these articles with you on Twit. What is up, Thad? How are you doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. This is my Windows free. I got rid of Windows yesterday on my main PC. I'm running Linux now. I just set this up on the fly. So,
which version of Linux are you running? My hubby is a Linux man himself.
Well, I work in IT, so I'm going to run Mint on my desktop and then have on
Okay.
my server like different VMs for different versions. You got to kind of know it in the IT field, at least to.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, even if you don't do anything on the underpinning, at least how to install an application that a customer wants or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. I'm trying to remember. The one my husband uses has a purple cat or panther, so I don't know what that one's called.
That's Purple Panther. They have all these weird names for this, like Linux Mint, but it's not even green anymore. It's like
That's weird.
it used to be green. That's why they called it Mint years ago.
What is up, Boba? How are you doing
Yeah.
today?
Sal, I'll give Roman his live Latin greeting. Salve Romanum ab imperio. There you go.
See, I'm just gonna do vidi vidi vici. It is Latin, not Greek, but still, I like saying it sometimes.
It's weird what I remember from high school Latin. Like Omnia Gallia est divisa impartes tres is the opening of Caesar's Chronicles, and they say everyone who ever takes Latin, if you forget that means you have brain damage.
I never took Latin, but I want to. I eventually one of the languages this is also a side note, but for those of you who are curious, I know a little bit of Spanish. I know some Koine Greek. I know I know greetings in Hebrew, like Shalom, or Shalom. But one day I want to refresh my Greek, learn Latin, learn Hebrew, learn Aramaic, and like maybe another couple of languages thrown in there. But that's my dream one day, is to know all of these languages.
I'm 49 now, and when I looked at the pile of books I still want to read, like the list, and then the other things I still want to do, and I realized I would like to refresh my mathematics knowledge. I mean, I'm on. You just, there's so much you want to do, and there's like what you get done.
Right.
So so I just trust my memory for stuff, and So.
Well, welcome on. This is the first time you've been on this channel, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to share some other stream ones, but other than that, the first time on the channel.
Wow, I feel honored.
No, you and Alasia, I respect you guys a lot. When you started doing this, I was like, wow, two people who are actually talking about the work and my biggest pet peeve when people complain about Rings of Prime is they don't complain about the actual differences from the lore in a way that is like they're complaining about the change, not about the way the change completely contradicts what Tolkien wrote.
Right.
But like the warrior Galadriel thing, like she's 3,000 plus years old. At some point, she's probably become better with a sword than most other people.
Right.
So if you complain about the wrong thing, it's not that she should be carrying a sword wearing armor, because if she's on a battlefield, have armor on, she's not stupid.
Right.
Some stealth orc to Shankar, to use a D&D term. But she's not going to run into battle. She's going to do what she did in at the end of the War of the Ring, where she blew up Dol Guldur just by looking at it.
Like she doesn't. The thing is, like, she doesn't need to like put on battle armor and have a sword like charging into battle. She can just look at the battlefield and it'll just go away. Like
they'll just be like mushroom clouds popping up all over the place.
Well, like in the Book of Law, the Unfinished Tales, like there's a whole story of like where they think this white lady, just magically moved them, forever. Like she just moved an entire army in like a day. Like what? Oh, Ark is awake. Oh, my apologies. No worries. You and I can still keep going. Ark, you can jump on whenever you're ready. Ark, don't worry. I know you probably need some food. Okay. Jacob Ironside did Post Tenebras Lux. Yes.
The most offensive singular scene I've seen with Rings of Prime is that scene with Galadriel, Tar. I'm still not awake yet. The queen, the queen to be that Arphasan.
Oh, right, yeah.
On a Palantir in Numera. I'm not pronouncing it right. The capital of Numenor. None of that ever happened.
Right.
There was never a Palantir there. Galadriel was never there, and
to our knowledge, she's never been there.
Palantir. Neither of them are. But anyway, that just I should just put that scene as my thumbnail for every single Ring of Prime when I do the episodes. That encapsulates everything they did wrong. Sorry,
Oh no, you're good. So let's go ahead and like go into. I sent you on Twitter the two articles. I think the first one we can go through is the Rings of Power and House of Dragon competition is manufactured by the media.
I read 4 or 5 of those articles. Like, so
hi, Wicked Virtue. How are you doing today, dear?
And I know you're somewhat religious, I guess. I'm not to go personal or whatever, but at least you're religiously educated with Catholic stuff, right? So
I am relative when it comes to Catholicism. I know more than the average bear, but I would not consider myself someone who is an authority on it.
So they taught me. I went to a Jesuit high school, even though I'm not very religious now. They taught me a lot of skills, right? And one of them was when analyzing the Bible, the concept of the synoptic gospels.
Yes.
3 of the 4 gospels. And by analyzing those 3 gospels, they determined there had to have been an older gospel all 3 of them drew from based on the way certain words were spelled, the way certain sentences were structured, and the way certain regions were described. There's no way that 3 separate people can do that much of a commonality. Whereas I think it's not it's Mark, Luke, and John. I forget one, whatever it is. Point is just 3 of them, right?
Right.
So when I see these articles pop up like Rings of Prime and House of the Dragon and competition manufactured, and you got the variety one. I saw one I think on Cosmic Book News. Like I've seen a couple of them, right? And I read through them, I'm like, these guys are all quoting it's like someone must have sent them all the same email because I could see commonalities of what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And I know it's real. I know this has been going on for decades, but it's not even just a left wing, right wing thing. It's just the way the media works. But it's so like if I were a writer, I had dreamed to be a writer at one point. I would be embarrassed to do this.
Right, because you're just regurgitating like PowerPoint notes in essence. Well, a competition. I am a competitive person. Another pretty bad scene is when she pulls her brother's dagger out of his dead hands. I have not seen that scene yet, but I mean, how does she get the daggers from? I imagine yes, from her brother. But
these have to be 3 fictional brothers because for Galadriel, if that's what they're talking about, because she wasn't there when any of her 3 brothers died.
Right? Like, that's the thing. Like, she was there. Like, because, like, the way that the Rings of Power is going to do this is basically she's going to be on the battlefield with them, most likely. And it's like, no, she wasn't there. She was off being a handmaiden to a goddess.
Well, she could have been involved, like, in the background, like, arranging strategy or whatever. I'm not going
right.
She's a smart woman. I mean, they're not going to say, well, you're a woman, just... These weren't stupid people back then. She was a noble,
Right, but she was in Gondolin for a lot of this. Like, she spent a lot of time in Gondolin. Late in Arkasul. Morning, Ark.
Morning. Don't stay up till 4.
Wow.
And then have a podcast at 10:30. Don't do it. Not smart.
Well, we are just getting started on an article, so I'm sure everyone can have wonderful things to say about how surprised we are that Rings of Power and House of Dragon are in competition, but it's manufactured. Manufactured competition.
Like even the image they use, they inadvertently show the difference between the two. With the image that they use, like in the ones from Rings of Prime. They're playing up the fact that she is a black dwarf.
Right.
There has not been a single mention about Coleridge Valerian being black in the show. He's just there.
Exactly.
He's just a very good actor playing. And this woman, by the way, she's supposed to be a pretty good actress. This woman, from what we hear from Shakespeare, just plays and stuff, And if they just not even mentioned her skin color, and she said that we just got a great actress for this role, and that's how we're doing the diversity thing, no one would have cared. But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
Space Zombie says, well, look who decided to wake up. Mando, tell Ark that he's being a real Arcasiel right now.
Yep. Thank you, Zombie. Thank you.
All right, well,
Appreciate
let's get into this. Also, you see, Ark, you see this? It's in
Mhm.
dark mode. You see this? You can make things in dark mode.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna stay in light mode for half of my apps and dark mode for the other half, just to annoy both sides.
I'm sorry. I just after a while I start now that I'm so used to dark mode, I get a headache looking at things in light mode for too long.
Calling to the dark side.
The dark side is better for your eyes. What's up, Phil? How are you doing today? So yes, the battle for the Iron Throne of streaming is about to begin. What is the Iron Throne of streaming? Who's the Iron Throne of streaming? Is it HBO? Is it Netflix? Is it Amazon? Is it Disney Plus? What is this coveted Iron Throne of streaming?
Mm-hmm.
That's my first question. I have questions. Basically, Lord of the why do they keep doing this freaking long A title? Like Rings of Prime and HBO House of Dragon will be airing simultaneously for 6 consecutive weeks, and many headlines and social media users have dubbed the biggest battle in TV history, the biggest mediocrity, the biggest battle of mediocrity on TV history. Wow. That's what I say. It's the biggest mediocre battle ever.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And basically, people asking about the competition. The producer dismissed the idea that they are in conflict with each other. What? You are airing similar shows at the same time. How is that not in competition?
I guarantee you that Dave Zaslav who runs HBO / Warner / Discovery and all that, he's 100% in competition with everyone out there because he wants the money, and technically they sort of still have a Tolkien license of their own. Although I've been reading, trying to find some legal interest in what exactly changed hands when everything moved, because supposedly part of the Warner rights reverted back to Embracer, but not all of them.
Right.
Yeah, it was very. I did a little article on that, like an essay, and I was reading through a lot of stuff, but I couldn't find. Like sometimes I could find like a lawyer who writes an article on it, and
isn't it Amazon bought only the TV show rights for the $250 million, right?
Well, okay, so when Tolkien sold the rights to United Artists back in the 70s,
it was 1969. Yeah,
right around there somewhere. And then that became what Saul Zaentz got in 77.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. He sold them all visual media rights. That's TV, movie, animation,
theater, stuff like that.
But basically, what you moving pictures, basically, to Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings. There's that little book that he wrote about the epilogue to The Hobbit, Bilbo's last song or something like that. Kind of cute. It's a really cool kids book.
I still haven't read that yet.
Yeah. A couple other little works like that. He did not nothing like that that eventually wound up in the published Silmarillion was in there. Nothing in the Unfinished Tales is in there. Nothing in the History of Middle Earth was in there. In those rights. But for some reason, there was a loophole in what Tolkien sold Zaentz's group that didn't include the appendices to The Lord of the Rings. But it didn't completely. This is what I understand is like they didn't get the rights to do it, but they didn't get. But they did. I don't want to dive deep into it because I think Amazon finally might have to lose these rights because of the way the show's going to wind out. So let's leave it alone. So anyway, so when Amazon got those rights, was $250 million, Ark, something.
I believe that's what it was at first, and then it's gone all the way up into the billion that they spent.
I know they spent $1 billion on it, but I'm saying 250. They have to do a TV show of a certain length. That was the thing. Like the wording in the original agreement, they never showed us what it was, but like Amazon can't do like a 5-episode TV show. They have to
Right.
do at least 8 episodes.
Right.
And they can't contradict with anything written in any other Tolkien's works, but they can make up stuff that's totally like they can just totally make stuff up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they can make up something that would conflict with Tolkien's work, but they could say this is our universe, so to speak. You know,
Uh-huh.
they just can't make up a villain called like Zelkor who does everything that Melkor does. You know, it's it's like it's again. I never read the agreement. I can only read what I've gathered over the decades on this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so, and that's what kind of this comes down to with this show. And why they can do stuff like we would just before we got on, we are talking about Galadriel pulling the dagger out of our fictional brother. When none of the three of them died, you know. I mean, so what does she do? Fly across on some on Gwahir's wings to pull the dagger out later? I don't know, but sorry, I'm just ranting. At the end of the
you're good. You're
No,
good.
that's
I'm
awesome.
just
That's perfectly fine. We do that all the time.
yeah, and you
yes.
understand one thing about me. There's a small group of us who do this. I think entirely in pictures and movies.
Okay.
So if you said, Matt, what did you eat for dinner last night? I have to play it back on my head like I'm watching a movie.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool, but it has problems when you're trying to learn like languages and things like that. So you know. But anyway, so when I see like when they had this Galadriel like on the field, like that image of Galadriel in that fire battlefield, that's only one possible battlefield that could be there, right? Which is the War of Wrath. That's the only time fire came from the sky in all the battles described in, right? So either they're loosely inferring she was in the War of Wrath, which kind of technically she was, could affect the whole continent, but but she wasn't.
But she was in Gondolin.
Yeah. Well, no, Gondolin was gone by then.
Right. Yeah. Never mind. Sorry.
She was with Celeborn, with the Sindarin, not Sindarin, the other elves, not Sindarin.
The Teleri.
The Wood Elves, Sylvanis, something like that.
Sylvan. No. Yeah. Sindarin. No, that's a language.
Well, I think Sindarin is a language that a group of them speak, and there's subgroups of there, one of which
we're all Tolkien scholars here. Let me just state that for a fact.
But anyway, that's what Galadriel was, and presumably those people were doing stuff while fire was raining from the sky. And I mean, I used to do versus forums, like a lot. And someone said to me, oh, the War of Wrath wasn't that big. So I got out the calculations of what Tolkien wrote about it. Okay, there's the plains of Anfalagoth, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. What used to be the northern part of Europe before it sunk in Middle Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If you take Tolkien's map that Christopher made, that Tolkien put the numbers on, and you do the square mileage of that, it's roughly 1/3 to 1/2 the surface area of New Jersey, right? So if you take that part of New Jersey and say how many human beings who are in soldier shape could you fit in there, it's about 150 million people, soldiers, like staying there in armed gear. If we use if we did like a modern, how much area they take up, which is maybe like I don't know, 3.5, 4, like a 4-foot square type of thing, right? So the description Tolkien wrote about the War of Wrath was when the hosts of the Valar and the hosts of Morgoth clashed. There were so many people there that both armies couldn't fit in that area,
right?
That they were spilling out across basically all the lands. They met there, but that's like the two giant armies met, just the tips of them hitting in that one place, right? And then you add his others, and so I was like, guys, just the minimum calculations mean alone, Morgoth had at least 100 million plus people there, and the elves came over from Valinor with the Maiar that came, and there had to be 1 or 200 million of them, just minimal, before you even count the fact that you're going to get some local Noldor armies throwing in and all that sort of stuff, and it's an immense. That War of Wrath was huge. I honestly, if I were a billionaire, that's the one thing I would beg to tell. Just let me make them a series with the War of Wrath. I'll have the most respectful people on it. I just want to see the scale of that thing, because it's the most, to me, one of the most amazing battles ever described in any literature.
And the Rings of Prime, most certainly are not going to do that battle justice, because I think they're just doing it in
but
flashbacks,
they're
if I'm
gonna
correctly.
talk about it for sure.
They can only, I think they can loosely refer to it based on. I went through I read the
I
appendices.
wonder how they're gonna how are they gonna handle the Night of Tears?
Can they? I mean, what?
Can
That
they?
is the question.
Yep.
Because
Well,
I mean, Galadriel seems to
I've-
be doing a lot of crying there. Just saying.
I've never understood what they could and could not do in this series because we have not seen the agreement that they have bought from Amazon. Well, Amazon bought from the Tolkien estate, and was it even the Tolkien estate that they bought it from, or was it the Saul Zaentz company?
No, it was the estate because
It was the estate.
what happened is
Nandor. That's the name of the elves. The wood elves.
Yeah, there you go. There's been a what do you call it? A three-way legal dispute between the Zantz's group, the Tolkien estate, and Warner. This is why I know about all this. I've been reading about this for like 17 years now. That it never emerged into a lawsuit because the Tolkien estate and once Saul Zaentz sold to Embracer kind of are getting along now. But a few years ago, when Amazon asked about this, the family wanted to make more money, and they felt both Zantz and the Tolkien estate felt that Warner was sitting on the license. Right? We talked about that a few weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah. So the Tolkien estate jumped at offering this little chunk of the appendices basically to Amazon for like whatever they got because everyone wanted more money to come in. I mean, I'm proud of them for still sticking to their guns and not selling out on the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales, even
right.
But it was a money grab, I guess. Christopher got outvoted by the other heirs,
I mean, towards the end of Christopher's life, I bet he was like, I don't want to say he was Stan Lead, but I feel like on some level, like he was probably Stan Lead. And for those of you who don't know what that means, basically towards the end of Stan Lee's life, he was dragged around like a little puppet. And
yep,
yeah.
Well, the other thing that I think that the family got annoyed by, I know one of Christopher's sons, who he was the only one I think to work on the Peter Jackson films, got annoyed by like Christopher was like his dad. He was not very respectful of the visual medium, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think he was reluctant to even. I don't know how much of that was because they didn't have to control the rights, or just because he didn't. I don't know. But I think a lot of the family thought maybe because Christopher didn't like movies of his father's work being done or whatever, that maybe he wasn't fighting for them to either get the rights back or to make them make more of them so they can make more money on this. I mean, look, you can't blame someone for not wanting. I mean, if my granddad wrote this great work and everyone's making money on this, I know in 17 years it's all going to the public domain one by one. That means, that's the time limit on making the money on this. And unless there's a big international treaty hubbub for this, which that might be because the rights are now held by big companies, they might say they might do what they do with Disney every year and then give them 15 more years, in a big treaty. But I don't know. It's just a complicated situation.
Yes. But back to the article.
Yeah. Sorry.
Let's see. So the executive producer, Lindsay Weber, whatever. I think that this is probably a lie, but I cannot read into the hearts of people. For us, we don't feel any of it. It's totally manufactured by the media for headlines, Weber said Tuesday night during a Rings of Prime panel discussion at Film and Lincoln Center. I'm quite certain that the cast and crew doesn't feel any of it either. They know how hard it is to make these things.
No, they don't.
What?
There are less than 1 in 100 actors who have any idea what it takes to make a TV to do. I mean,
they're cogs in a machine. Like they just do their job. Like, but also like I haven't been on Twitter the last few days because Twitter's been on fire, and I have been hanging out with friends IRL because I like to touch grass periodically. Anyway, but just from my understanding, like there are tons of these actors and shills that are talking about like, if you don't like this show, blah blah, you're an istophobe or whatever, and like they're doing that for the hype of the show. They don't actually care if they're calling you an is or a phobe. They're just like publicity for the show. Like, huh? Sorry, I just
So what was that famous was it Ghostbusters 2016? Like, this isn't for you. Yeah, he just apologized for that. He really did with the director. I read that article. He was like, when I told the fans when I made this movie, I'm not making this for you, so don't watch it, and no one did. He was like,
Right. I remember that. It was kind of funny to see that happen to him because it's like you're the one who asked for it. You got
Right.
exactly what you were trying to. I don't know if he was trying to virtue signal, if he was trying to get some bad press or like bad publicity, because there is no such thing as bad press or bad publicity. But yeah, like he got exactly what he said he quote unquote wanted,
yeah.
and it did not work out for him. And
Nope.
I'm just wondering.
It's good to know that he apologized later on. I didn't know that there was an apology.
I'll find the article for you guys later and link it in Twitter.
I'm just wondering if we need to do that here. Like, this is not what we want, so we just don't watch it. I'm starting to think that might be the way to go, but also
maybe
I'm racking my head with. So Thad and Mendo, they bought the rights back in 2017, correct?
Yes.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That means that Amazon Prime subscriptions from 2017, well, let's go back a little bit more. 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 paid for that $250 million. And then Amazon Prime subscriptions, I'm just going with subscriptions alone. Amazon Prime subscriptions from 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2022, and 2022, 5 years, paid for that $1 billion price range.
That's a fair assessment. Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if you boycott this show, because the normies are going to watch it that have Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to get their numbers there, because there are more normies than there are us. That's just the plain and simple fact of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to really affect their budget, because most, if not all of it, is probably already paid for.
Well, here's the thing, though. There was an article, and I didn't share it with anyone because I didn't think it was important. But I will stop sharing and see if I can find that article real fast. There was an article that mentioned that the numbers that they get as far as live numbers watching the series is going to determine a lot of future streaming things on Amazon Prime.
Interesting.
Okay, so have either of you guys ever worked in corporate payroll or financial budgeting, anything like that?
I have not.
So I work in corporate IT now. I'm in healthcare IT in particular, but I used to do a lot of payroll and capital purchasing and stuff a few years ago, right? So at that level of a corporation, like Amazon's a big corporation, right? When you're trying to determine whether something is worth spending money on, like someone has to come up with a proposal, blah, 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 the bit that's obvious, right? And then you spend your initial amount on it. And if it's something that's a one type thing, like like a TV show, for example. And then the idea is, are we making money just once on it? Or is this a lead into something to follow up with, right? So Amazon might be looking at this and saying, $1 billion, which is not a lot to them, right?
Right.
We'll have the rights to these things, so we can do it 17 different times if we wanted to, and if this version fails, well, it's just $1 billion. It's just a couple $100 million drop in the bucket. So the people I'm talking about are the finance people, not the showrunners per se.
Right.
Like the same way Zavalov can write off $100 million Batgirl movie or whatever that's called. Like at that level, because they might be saying if this doesn't. We paid for this to Prime, like you were saying, which they did. They just probably cost center. It's all like they probably have a cost center that says, all Lord of the Rings merchandise sold or something like that, and they just charge it to that, and eventually because they probably sell $1 billion plus of Lord of the Rings merchandise between books and toys and whatever before they even got these rights, and so they probably, like you said, paid that off already, So the question for the business guy is going to be: are we just going to pump however many seasons we have these actors signed for? Right? Let's say they have them signed for 3 seasons, and they're targeting a 5-season show, right?
Mm-hmm.
They might say, is this all we're going to do with this? Then we'll just sit on the rights for a few years and see if we can do something else with it. And I think, and my other theory I told you guys a few weeks ago was they were targeting these rights that Embracer got. You know,
Right.
that's why they were really trying. If you ever watched the way they started, they want to make sure Amazon and Lord of the Rings were always in the same sentence wherever they advertised this.
Right. And that's why the title of the series is so freaking long and stupid.
Yeah.
Like, don't say Lord of the Rings Prime, what, like, blah, blah. Like, just say Rings of Prime or Power. Rings of Power. Like, doesn't
That's
need
what
to
I've
have
been
the
doing.
whole thing. Same.
I've found it very annoying that they have to have Amazon.
Well, normies
aren't
gonna like say all of that. That's a mouthful. Normies are gonna be like, "Oh, Rings of Power."
If they like it, they'll call it Rings of Power. If they don't, they'll pick up one of the terms we use for it online. You know?
Right. Will they make a Twitter profile for Tolkien like they did with Stanley? I am not sure, Boba. I hope they don't, because I will boycott that. If it's the same normies that watch Game of Thrones, they may not watch it. Most normies watching Game of Thrones were not interested in the story. Hi, Elijah. How are you doing?
I will. Hey, Elijah. I will say this. I've read. I was a Martin reader before Song of Ice and Fire since I was a little kid, like a lot of stuff. And the only reason I really watched Game of Thrones, mild spoilers for those who haven't read it, there are 2 particularly nasty events that happened in that show. And when I knew the episode was dropping, I wasn't watching the episode, right, for the first of those really horrible things. I was on YouTube just looking for reactions because I was solely wanted to see how people.
Well, I do that too because like I don't like whenever I know something bad's about to happen, I don't want to watch it like myself first. I want to watch somebody else's reaction to validate what I'm feeling, and then I go and watch it.
Right.
Bar says if Amazon goes the same route as Game of Thrones, they might lose more people than they gain because people expect higher morals in Tolkien and will not be happy with the throne is
Thrones
defying.
Words. I have a degree. I swear, guys, I went to school. I did. I have a piece of paper that says I did. But anyway, so this was the article I was talking about. Amazon Insider says entire future of Amazon Prime Video rests on the Rings of Prime. And look who they have as their representative, Warrior Galadriel, but not with her 6-fingered or 6-handed sword. It's just the regular sword. Anyway.
And that Insider is either lying or delusional.
Probably, but basically it's just, like they're talking once again about the streaming wars, like, with the House of Dragon like article, they're talking about the streaming wars. We all know that the streaming wars are mostly made up, like not completely, but mostly made up because basically the streaming wars have become cable. What we are paying more now for streaming services than we did with cable packages. It's ridiculous. Like, it is so ridiculous how so many consumers are just consuming and not thinking. Why I'm not feeling bad about refusing to watch this trash. Oh yeah, definitely. I already have a Amazon Prime membership because I have Discord, Nitro, and Prime Gaming and stuff.
It's provable I'm disabled. Okay. I can't leave my house very readily and all that. So I had to do the math on what I can keep and not keep, what benefits me. Amazon Prime, dollar for value is is the best thing you could have going.
If you're looking at it objectively.
Yeah. For people who don't, you can test this yourself. Get like a browser where you're logged into Amazon and you have your Prime account with that there, and then make like one of you guys, I guess, would do like a private session and log in and go to Amazon without logging in or whatever. But I would do it through VM and all that. And look at the same price on something. You'll see items when you have Prime, you get an extra like 5-10% off sometimes. Mm-hmm. Not even over the normal discounts Amazon gives you.
Right.
It's just, but that's, and I can't. The thing is, I can't criticize Amazon because they do good things too. Like
they do.
Reacher. I mean, that the book series, I read the first 4 of those. They get a little redundant. That's why I didn't go past them because there are 20 of them. But it was enjoyable. It's that type of series. It's like like the Destroyer, Remo Williams. They made that
Yep.
movie about him.
Mhm.
That's a, I guess, what would you say, Ark, a subgenre of type of hero where they go on those adventures constantly.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
could have-
it's very similar to Mission Impossible. It's very similar
Yes.
to that because like they all do the same thing. It's an impossible mission.
yeah.
Boba says streaming wars. Is that some Star Wars sequel? I mean, I think this would be better than the sequels we got.
Yeah.
And then Var says, with any luck, the shows will kill each other and Hollywood will move on from fantasy. Agreed.
They're gonna move on from fantasy and they're gonna move on from sci-fi and they're gonna go straight into video game adaptations. We've
Yep.
already seen that. They've already dipped their
Mhm.
toes in with Halo. They've went in with Resident Evil, and we saw how horrible those two were. So just
Right.
expect more of your favorite video games, whether that's old school like NES style games or if it's a new PS5 game. Expect them to be
Mhm.
adapted to the big screen.
Wait, does this mean I can finally join the woke crowd and complain about Mario Brothers and their horrible depiction of Italians? Can I do that?
I mean, why not? Why not jump on that bandwagon? So in this article, it says anonymous sources, where have we heard that? Sorry, with connections to Amazon Prime told Insider that the streaming platform's $1 billion series will determine the future of Amazon Prime. According to them, executives must ensure that the series succeeds, and if not, then the company will reevaluate the purpose of Amazon Studios. But here's their Amazon Studios has good things on their Prime platform. They do. Wheel of Time is not one of them. Lord of the Rings, whatever this is going to be called, whatever, is not one of them. But that's two out of a lot of other things that they do well. Like, I watch other shows on Amazon Prime. So I think one of the things that we need to make sure that we're doing is we are being fair. Like, tell them, hey, you're doing good here. You suck here. Get out of there. Get out of this little genre, whatever it is you're looking at.
Well, that's why I'm definitely going to do reviews on these episodes. I'm going to do my sort of critical, like, here's where it differs review, and then a separate one where I just sort of express myself about it. So people want to watch the ranting, they don't want to see it, Because my Kenobi reviews, I tried to be objective for about the first 20 minutes of the first one, and after that, I just like recorded me ranting about it for 5 episodes because it was just too there was just too much to deconstruct out of it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be okay. So don't anyone interpret this as me saying I think this is going to even okay, right? This show, but I think that they think that they're trying to make a good effort to produce something watchable here, meaning
Yes.
not that they're not just doing a for people who might not get what I'm saying, like a C grade, movie where they put a bunch of attractive 20-year-olds in bikinis running from a giant rubber monster around or whatever.
Right. Just to obtain the rights. That you're not saying that they did this just to obtain the rights. They're actually trying to make a product that some normies would find appealing.
Right, because we're not their target audience. Like, that's the thing. Like, they've said it over and over again, and we need to understand, like, we are not the people that they want to watch this show. We are the people they want to go away and just be quiet, because the normies are the ones they want to watch the show.
I'll admit this. I'm a guy. I will watch fluff fantasy like The Legends of the Seeker or whatever for the pretty chicks and whatever, not watch it repeatedly, but, I mean, if there's something there, if there's a couple cool fight scenes and there's some attractive women, I'm a hetero guy. And I know women who like some of the way the dudes look, watched it for the same reason. Like, you know what I mean? It was not a very good adaptation of the source material, but it was entertaining to watch once through, And this, if they said this, we're going to make a fluff adaptation where we're just going to have a big adventure and whatever, and not going to talk. You don't have to think too much, but they're not even doing that.
Right. Late Art says they also picked up Grand Tour, which I like. It's hard because they picked up good stuff too, but it won't make up for the Rings of Prime. Agreed. The Terminal List. They should see that by the watch numbers, and that's why I'd like people to not hate watch it. And then Alaji coming in hot. But I think it keeps coming back to, where is the merchandise? If they believed in their product, why on earth is there no merch to buy? Where are the Funko Pops? That is I agree. Where are the Funko Pops? Because I like Funko Pops. Like, I only have one, and it's Hermione. Because
we were talking about that, I think, before you got on, Alasia. There might not be merch for this show.
Yeah, because merchandise merchandise has specific rights.
It does. Yes, that might be a rights issue with the merchandise.
But remember, Amazon doesn't have to make the merchandise; they just sell. Like as we were told, they sell a lot of Lord of the Rings related merchandise. So that might be how they're justifying the.
Maybe. I love also in this it says that the so Rings of Power is competing against other streaming platforms, but in this one it's like actually, one of the executives from Rings of Prime saying, "No, we're not in competition with anybody."
And I will say this: House of the Dragon was was an okay first episode.
Okay, I still haven't seen it yet because my thing is here, and I've always been this way, and people get frustrated that I am this way, but they can just get over it. I will not read or watch a series unfinished because of people like Mr. Martin.
Well, this is finished, meaning this is in the past. Like
right. But so I don't want to start a prequel knowing that the sequel after that is not finished. Like I don't like starting things that I know aren't finished because too many times I have gotten really excited about it, whether it be a TV series, a manga, an anime, a book series, and the person never finished, and it just leaves me with an empty feeling on the inside. But that's just me personally, and that's why I won't read or watch anything Game of Thrones related until Mr. Martin decides to finish the book. So I'm gonna be waiting with a bated breath.
He's never gonna. I doubt he's gonna live long enough to finish Winds of Winter.
Right, right. I agree.
I watched the first episode. It was It was definitely. I noticed some nostalgic writing for season 1, 2, and 3. I noticed some elements.
Have you Ark? Have you read the books?
Yeah, but very, very briefly a long time ago. It was like
anyone who's in the chat or listening to this who doesn't want to be spoiled by what I'm about to say. Okay.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
So this is 100% spoiler. What happens at the end of this Dance of the Dragons?
Yeah.
It takes what Dany did to King's Landing and multiplies it in the actual writing by 150 times over.
You're correct.
Yeah. So that's honestly the main reason I'm kind of watching this, because I want to see them do that credit with that happening to Westeros.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll watch the last episode. I'll watch the
Late Art says, I kind of like the first episode. It was way too bloody for my taste. A bit boring, but at least it looked good. Bub was like, la, 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 la. I'm not listening. Okay, spoiler is over. But yeah, I considered watching the House of the Dragon because of Matt Smith, if we're just being completely honest. I might like you. It's not. You can convince me to watch a couple of episodes with him in it.
Despite not physically being like Daemon Targaryen, I'm not going to go crazy about all the changes, but he's supposed to have the physical charisma of like John Wayne or Vin Diesel or that ability when they walk in the room, that dude's in charge.
Absolutely.
And Matt Smith doesn't have that type of physical charisma, but he pulls everything else off about Daemon that they gave him in this.
Yes,
he's a very complex character.
See, the ladies agree. Like, we agree. Like, yeah. I mean, if we're talking about me based on my principles of not watching things because they're not finished, sure, I'm not gonna watch it. But if it's gonna be, if like the ladies want to do a ladies' night where we like watch some like Game of Thrones, like in the Matt Smith episodes, like I'd be down. But I wouldn't be watching it for the actual Game of Thrones itself. Okay. And I think so. We realize variety, and then this Amazon Insider's load of horse poopy. So how about we start on this one?
I don't want to do that one, but go for
it. Later. Plus he's the 11th.
In the trail of them cucking Elrond.
I know, right? It's just made me so upset with what they've done to Elrond, because the Lord of the Rings of Power, the importance of Elrond in Middle Earth. Like, shut
Why do they gotta do this one? This is where his daughter is about to be married and he's happy. Like, don't defile this moment. Like, don't. Why? Why would you do this? Like, no. Anyway.
It's just, nope. I'm gonna mute. I'm muted.
Yeah. This first sentence though, it seemed for the longest time that no one but Peter Jackson could tell a story within Tolkien's universe. What happened to all of the other things? What? Oh, Leja. I think I triggered a Leja. Be real. The ladies just want to play doctor and patient with Matt Smith. I mean, and hello, Dead End. Why isn't he important to the show then?
Well, because basically they cuck him and everyone else. Every other man
Ark!
and woman is cucked to Galadriel.
That was me.
Ark!
What happened?
Because you're signed in on my account, sir. When you post things, it's gonna post as me.
That's hilarious. That was me, by the way. I'm gonna show it. See that? Yeah, that was me.
That's not me. It's Ark. You're signed in on my account, so yes, it's gonna post as me. So that's kind of weird. Like I'm typing, but my hands are typing. Anyway, sorry, Matt.
Okay.
Distraction. Go ahead and say what you were saying.
I was just saying, like this whole show, I've been trying to figure this show out because my brain needs to do that. I think like an engineer, So I need to kind of understand what they're trying to do, and it seems the only logical conclusion I come is this show is basically, Galadriel, warrior queen.
Right.
Warrior princess, and everything else is subordinate to the way they're presenting her character. That's the only interpretation I could see that they're doing with this, based on what they've shown us so far. Because nothing else makes sense.
They are unlimited power. What's up, Road 2? That's right. Ark could have all of the power. You could yeet me out of the stream, and the stream would be fine. But please don't yeet me out of my own stream. That's kind of scary. Anyway, but yeah, I love how they're like, but Del Toro was briefly involved in the inception of the Hobbit films. Like, they're just like, don't forget about Del Toro.
And we can see this writer never read the actual Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, it's important to understand that Del Toro was involved in the Hobbit, but for this article talking about Elrond, no, absolutely not. Like, that makes no sense to have any. These journalists make my head hurt, and I think I've had like 15 migraines since befriending Mando.
I'm sorry. Like, welcome to my life. I give myself headaches. I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Anyway, so actual Elrond, has a pivotal role in Jackson's trilogy. Not only does he call together blah blah, he leaves the elves. Yes. New strong whammon looking Elrond stars as a younger version of the character, but he grows to become a cynical figure that Elrond is not that cynical. Excuse you. Long before he grows to become cynical. Like, what? He's one of the most hopeful beings in all of literature, and you're going to call him cynical? Sorry. Elrond, yeah.
Tolkien says somewhere in all his letters, I can't name the one, but he says if anyone could have actually thrown the ring into Mount Doom, it would have been Elrond.
Right?
He has a line like that somewhere. It's in better Tolkien.
She's like, I get to see it now. She's vacuuming and like, what the frick? I'm sorry, your house is gonna be really clean, Elijah, after you get done vacuum, like anger, hate vacuuming. I'm sorry.
Nor does he observe the entire history of Middle Earth because he ain't that old.
Galadriel.
She's not even that old. She's only 3,000 or 4,000 years old. The entire history of Middle Earth, the ancient wars of the Valar against Melkor.
Right. Before like the first day, before the children of Iluvatar awoke.
The years of riots and the years of trees and all that. Yeah.
Right. Elrond observed. the entire history that if you just take out like this part of the sentence, like he observes a lot of the history of Middle Earth, major parts of the history of Middle Earth. Anyway, yeah. They're talking about the Silmarillion. Don't talk about the Silmarillion. They don't have the rights to the Silmarillion. Leave that alone.
Well, they must not have read it because they would have known he would if they had. They known he would have been born and after the Noldor returned during the Silmarillion in the 600 years at the end of the First Age.
Yep. These people did not read the source material. They didn't read the source material that they own the rights to, and they did not read the same in-universe source material that they don't own the rights to, because it all kind of meshes together. And it all fits together. Kind of like what a good author is supposed to do, right? It's like it's unheard of that there's actually some way for universes to work and for lore to work together. And these people have taken, like what Thad has been saying, this tiny portion of the appendices of the Lord of the Rings, and they've conflated it into the entirety of Tolkien's work. When they have no right doing that.
Right.
It's despicable.
And like we talked, what was it, about a month ago? We said there's so much they could have done in there.
There's so much, man.
I mean, just show the whole war, the forging of the rings, and and the war Sauron started after Celeborn wouldn't give him the rings and all that. I mean, that alone is a nice little 5-year series, and you can make up elf commanders and whatever, and have your darker skin elf and just whatever, and
you can have like NPC elf here, NPC dwarf here, commander NPC whatever. Like, there's so many things they could have done, and they chose to,
the worst possible path.
Hello, Miss Martin Muses. How are you doing today? Welcome in. Arkasul, you could have used the power to do good, but through you.
Exactly.
All right, I'm not gonna do too much more of the articles because we are at the 1 hour mark. We should probably begin the second half and actually talk about the book. Thad, you're more welcome to stay and
absolutely
talk.
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you guys run it and just chime in here and there. And
okay.
I just want to put, it's been, like I said, I reread a lot of stuff, but we talked about before you guys are, the pile of books I have that haven't read yet is like, I'll never read them in my entire life. So by the next time I reread the histories, it'll probably be like when I'm 5 or 10 years from now. It's been about 8 years ago since I last read them, and you can only reread so many things and not get new stuff.
Right, especially because, granted, this was actually, I was surprised at how long this chapter was, but then I was like, oh yeah, the story of Beren and Luthien.
But I do want to show something off.
Ooh.
So everyone out there, whether you're getting some new from Amazon, but don't get the bad book cover ones, just I'm saying, or you can look on eBay for materials. People are selling their Tolkien stuff. Now, this is it reversed? Good. So this is the second edition of The Road Goes Ever On. Can you see it? Yeah.
Why will it not let me?
This is the book where Tolkien wrote songs, and then the other guy wrote. I'll give you his name in a second. There's that poems by Tolkien, music by Donald Swan, who's a pretty famous guy, right? And you can find this stuff being sold now on eBay. I really wanted the third edition because I have another song of Tolkien's I was put into it, but I took this back and got it for like $30, and it was in great condition. I put this plastic cover on myself, and if you look inside, you'll get. Here's the
actual sheet music. That's awesome.
Yes, Swan wrote the sheet music to Tolkien's poems, right? Yeah. So there's this is The Road Goes Ever On with the sheet music for it, for example, and then there's also some other cool stuff in here. If you go to the back, there's notes and translations. With Christopher put some stuff in here too about. Like he give you some of the songs are in Elvish, right? So Tolkien will give you explanations of like what the terms mean, and it's a pretty cool book. It's not but stuff like this, the other works Tolkien wrote or Christopher published for Tolkien that have been out of print for years, and I think I know I showed this to Mando. This is from the 70s, right? And I got the new edition of it, right? Because it was worth it. This is pictures by J.R.R. Tolkien. There we go. And this is all stuff like Tolkien drew. This is all the art that Tolkien drew. Like he drew the black and white, and here's an enhanced version with color or whatever. And most of this is from some Lord of the Rings Middle Earth calendars from the 70s. Plus, there's other art in there, but it's basically a collection of Tolkien's original art for for his world. You know, there's a lot of this cool stuff out there now that this is a good time to get it. You know, while it's still before people gobble it up. You know, oh, look at this cool dragon down the back.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. Good finds.
I think you'll need to bring us back into the actual front of it, Arkansas. I don't know if the chat can still hear us.
Oh, okay.
What are you doing?
Are we back?
We're
Back. I could be a producer.
What? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with life. I actually prefer this layout. This is a much better layout than the other one.
Anyway. Sorry for the distraction, but I want to let people know that they got to get on top of this stuff. This is cool stuff.
Oh, also, before you completely leave Alaja and Arkansas, you change your name to producer. Next week, my friend Smile a While for Me will be on this channel. She is coming from Minnesota, and we will be discussing homeschooling and other pieces of literature that was important to her. So for those of you maybe having to pop out soon, like next week, it's going to be very, very different. We are not going to discuss a lot of Rings of Prime because everyone and their mom and their grandma and their great-grandma is going to be discussing Rings of Prime. So we're going to do something different next week. See ya.
It's going to be wonderful, and I don't have to be there, so I can sleep in. Kind of like what I did today.
You know?
Sure. Okay, yeah. Boba says you were 10 out of 10 producing.
Awesome. Thank you, Boban. We were talking about the first chapter of the second part.
Oh, of the Book of Lost Tales, yes. The Tale of Tinuviel. Basically, for those of you who don't know, Tinuviel is Luthien. That's her name, is Tinuviel. So if you maybe got
totally
confused,
forgot.
I did too when I read this. I was just like, this is the story of Beren and Luthien. Oh, her name's Tinuviel. Whoopsie.
I don't like all the different names. Like, come on, man.
It's confusing. I want to get the series with his drawings. There are so many versions of the book. It's a bit confusing. Yes.
Well, the one I showed you is the one that has all of Tolkien's drawings.
That's awesome. Yeah. By the way, one thing, kind of going into because of course that you know the story of Beren and Luthien. I know the story of Beren and Luthien. Arkansas knows the story. Most people know the story of Beren and Luthien. So for just a summary of the normal, whenever you get to read Beren and Luthien, which you should because it's the bestest love story ever, better than everything else.
Way better than stupid Romeo and Juliet.
The opening sentence of Beren and Luthien, in my view, is the greatest sentence ever constructed in the English language.
Yes.
Ever.
And so this is another telling of the story of Beren and Luthien, because we're still in, for those of you who've been keeping up with us, Ariel is still the one that's we are technically Ariel, and he is being told these stories of Middle-earth through different people. And this is one of the stories he is told by actually a little child, which I thought was really cool. I'm like, oh, this child is very literate for their age. When I was reading, I was like, man, she's telling a great story of Beren and Luthien. But basically, Beren and Luthien, which one thing that's different in this version, which I thought was really interesting than in the others, Beren, I'm confused on whether in this one he's an elf or not, because they call him a gnome.
That it's the gnome, and they only called the Noldor or the Noldali the gnomes.
But also, if he's also in the same breath called a servant of the gnomes, like a gentleman in waiting kind of thing or whatever.
I'm very glad that is here in the voice chat, because I was hoping that you were going to be there in regular chat, in the YouTube chats, because I had so many questions about this. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, was this like the many different iterations that Tolkien was writing
so
that throughout the years,
so
kind
for
of
the gnome
mashed
thing,
together?
For the gnome thing, when Tolkien wrote this, like obviously this reflects what he was doing in the 1910 teens when he's napkin writing everything in the middle of the war. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, like you guys have probably at least written some stuff. I don't know if you write, if you're regular writers or not. I've tried. I don't know if you used to write stuff, you know. And when you're writing, you just like I can be working on a database. Oh, I got an idea for a scene. I'll write that down in my notebook or whatever. You know, that's the type of thing that's how a lot of this came together. Christopher talks about it in Unfinished Tales. If you read some of the, so his father would constantly do outlines of stuff and he'd make like napkin notes all over the place. And and Christopher's job was to basically get all that stuff together and organize it and put it in like version A, version B, version C.
Yep.
And his father would come in and expand the outline and take version A part, you know. So anyway, so gnomes were invented in I typed this out, but it was like 1690 something by a guy named Paracelsus, who's a pretty interesting figure, which historical figure. But they're a part of what you would call modern medieval folklore. They're not like an ancient creature from Babylon times or whatever that got passed along. So they're purely a literary creation, right? So, and Tolkien obviously is a literary scholar of all that stuff. So when he was beginning to think, what does he want in his legendarium, his fictional mythology, he was, I think, with this version and with these early versions, he was saying, let's try this. Like let's try these gnomes as a type of elf or whatever, you know. Like he wasn't focused in on the purely Nordo-Germanic stuff quite yet, and then the whole Catholicism thing we talked about last week, where he was like they literally became angels basically by the end of the way he was writing it all and all that. He was just pulling stuff in that was all over England and seeing what worked and what didn't work. And there was a lot more Celtic influence. Like you didn't see me type this before, Ark, but when I first read this when I was 10. Okay, so this is like the first version of Sauron in this, and he's a cat.
Yep.
Right. But when I was 10,
I thought that was crazy. Like when I was reading this, I'm like, is this Sauron?
I really like that.
I'll give you the reasoning behind that in a minute, but in the story, but not his reasoning, but the sort of lore there. In my head, because he had a Spanish name, I was like, did Sauron take the form of like an evil barber of Seville? And that's how I did for this entire thing.
Yes. Oh no.
So for those of you who are confused, in this version, Sauron is an evil kitty cat that loses his powers at the end and just becomes a cute little kitty cat.
Now, for those who want to know why he was a cat, okay, or why, and if you've read the Dresden Files and know who Cat She is, anyone out there, the leader of the fairy cats, basically, okay. And they're very mischievous. That sometimes they're evil. They serve powers and whatnot. So I'm betting when he had a lot of more Celtic influence in the Legendarium, I'd have to go through and find Christopher's notes on it somewhere in whatever book he would have wrote them in. And I'm betting that's why Sauron was a cat here. You know, like he was saying,
probably playing with that idea.
Yeah, the evil fairy cats or mischievous fairy cats, and people are going to think I'm a lunatic when I say this. Sauron has a very mischievous nature to him. If you watch the things he does, he's evil, and he's methodical, and I think he's the greatest villain in fiction and all that. But if you watch the way he does stuff, he has an almost like an evil Naruto vibe about him, like I can do it, and he said, I can beat that dog. You want to become a better dog, you know? And he couldn't. You can sing Melian, well, I can sing better, you know? You know,
that's. I really like that. When I found out that the cat, like when the cat first showed up, I was like, this can't be Sauron.
Who is this?
There's no way that this is Sauron. And then it's Sauron. It literally is Sauron, and he's just a kitty cat.
I like Boba's comment. You know how some people write their numbers on napkins and bars? Tolkien writes a mythology. And then Space Zombie, did I hear Dresden Files? Archimendo, I highly recommend reading the Dresden Files series. I need to add that to the list.
I've already read it. It's pretty decent. I enjoyed it.
The nice thing is
so if the Fellowship only had to give Sauron Snickers, he would have turned back into a cat.
You know what?
But
Now
also,
I'm just
here's
imagining like Sauron, like
his,
getting handed a Snickers on the battle of when the siege of Barad-dûr, the 7-year siege of Barad-dûr, and then he just comes out as a cat in black armor, and I'm just like
well, just
Battle
imagine
Cat.
the
The
battle,
armor.
like
He-Man
a battle
moves
cat.
out.
Yes,
Yep.
He-Man Battle Cat, but also, but imagine like the armor that we see him in, like with the Peter Jackson armor, that's really cool, pointy, spiked. With the imagine that on a Battle Cat.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But also the thing to like, I really like. Granted, yes, of course, we all know the version of Sauron that's told in this is very different than the version that we come to know and appreciate. But I like it because it gives you the perspective of how like a kid would tell a story. Because when you tell something to a kid and they retell it to somebody else, they embellish, they add things, you know, they do. But it's kind of funny to like see this from a child telling someone like, I'm going to tell you a story about this mean kitty cat. Like,
Well,
that's
not only that,
amazing.
when I first read not when I first read, when I was I didn't appreciate the histories until probably when I read them in the early 20s, right? Because I had by then the Jesuits had poured stuff into me, you know.
Right.
And this is my only physical surviving copy of what I had since I was a little kid. I had a nice 10 set like this and or 12 set, whatever it was, and the Great Flood of 2017 destroyed over thousands of my books. So it was you know, that's a story for another day. But when I read them, I was like, and then thought back to analyzing the course over time. Like, I think when Tolkien was putting this together, like, and he was in a very heady place when he started, like a young man then in World War One and post-war with, you know, soldiers deal with stuff. He was thinking more lighthearted and originally constructing them as a set of fairy tales.
Absolutely. I can totally see that.
Yeah.
He wanted to have something nice, something happy to read about,
Yeah.
something happy
Yep.
to give
Yeah.
to not only his children, but to other children as well, and instill in them a hope for a better world, or like
Yep.
an escape from to a
Yeah,
better world.
exactly. And if you kind of like go on Unfinished Tales and look at the different versions and pay attention when Christopher says like this was written before this and whatever, you can kind of see an evolution away from more fairy tale style in more towards more historical documentation style. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, writers are fascinating people. I mean, there's only probably 2 or 3 writers I could do this type of thing with: Tolkien, H.P. Lovecraft, and maybe 1 or 2 other. Well, obviously, with all the people, the Jesuits from, you know, the scholars and whatever they made me read in high school, but like, Shakespeare and all that crap. Not as crap, but you know what I mean. But I enjoyed some Shakespeare, but it's not saying Shakespeare's crappy. It's just, it's thrown at you as a kid. You think it was a pile of crap, you know?
Right. I think Shakespeare should not be read in high school. I think it should be read later on, because reading it in high school, like I didn't appreciate it. Like now that I'm a little bit older and reading some of the Shakespearean works, I've always loved Macbeth though. That was always one, like I have always loved Macbeth. But you don't really, like, when you're in high school, you don't appreciate it as much. You don't appreciate literature as much in high school, in my opinion.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of what I observed about this sort of flow. Even the naming structures, like everything is like think back to those sort of like Irish folklore. A lot of characters have those sort of songy names, and names end in vowels are more alliterative, can be sung more, which I think Tolkien moved away from deliberately. You know, which logically, you know. Sorry, Steele. Just gotta keep going. I mean, whatever you want to talk about.
No, it's fine.
It was great. I was enjoying it. Jeez.
Yeah. But so when I earlier when I said if you're familiar with the story of Beren and Luthien, you'll be kind of familiar. Like the base storyline is still the same, but the characters and just the way it's presented is different as far as like the tale of like even the name. Like most of us are used to it being called the Tale of Beren and Luthien, like Beren and Luthien. But this is the Tale of Tinuviel, which Ark and I, when we looked at this, I'm just like, who's Tinuviel? And then I go reading it, I'm like, oh, this is Beren and Luthien. What?
I
Yeah.
I went back and reread it, and I felt so dumb for not putting the pieces together as fast as I did, because I was about halfway through, and then I was like, hold on.
What story is this? I know
I
this
saw
story.
Baron, and I saw no. Here's the sad part: I saw Baron, and I saw Tinuviel, and I didn't put two and two together. I am that bad at reading that.
Now, I want to point something else out. Okay, notice the naming structures, right? I'm betting Tolkien kind of subtly did this, but Galadriel has always come across as one of the more angelic of the elves.
Mm-hmm.
El is the historic way you name angels. El,
Mm-hmm.
Mikael, Gabrielle, type of thing. So he might have just very subconsciously put that in there, thinking of her as being this majestic character from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I'm saying Luthien and Galadriel are almost the same character.
Right.
Right.
When
Right.
you like look at,
Absolutely.
but it also makes sense because Luthien was in
Doriath.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Galadriel was there also. Like they
Yep.
they knew each other. They were friends. Like I'm sure
Yeah.
they did a lot of interacting because they were. I bet you they were probably like sisters because Galadriel literally was tutored under Luthien's mom. Like
Right.
I imagine they were kind of like sisters. But anyway,
I forget the Maiar's name. I forget her name, but
I
she's an
do too.
important Maiar. Is it
Million.
Million?
Million, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there it is. And yeah, so I totally agree that Galadriel and Tinuviel would have interacted with one another, and I wish that Tolkien would have been able to live long enough to
The
write about
Adventures
that.
of Tinuviel and Galadriel. It would have been amazing. I'm sorry. Space Zombie says, in my personal opinion, Romeo and Juliet is overrated. 12th Night is much more interesting story. Agreed. Var, it also depends on the person. I don't like reading Shakespeare or Dickens, but I read Mythology by Edith and
No.
Jane. Yeah,
If
absolutely.
when I went to high school, if the first thing I had read was Hamlet, I would have been like, this Shakespeare guy is awesome. This is like an action movie.
I know.
I mean, but the first thing they made me read was Romeo and Juliet and West Side Story.
And it's like so depressing.
And I liked, as a kid, I liked the West Side Story movie. I like musicals,
Mhm.
you know? And
Yeah.
plus
I was talking about Romeo and Juliet.
No, but
Mhm.
West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet told from that perspective. It's just,
Right.
yeah.
But
So-
the weird thing is, I actually enjoyed the West Side Story.
No, I
when
did
I read
too.
it and then I watched the play, it was like
But
it was
when
actually
you read
nice.
it right after Romeo and Juliet, and I grew up as an Italian American, and I'm like, yeah, Italy was screwed up, and I know people were dueling and killing one another, but and I know this war happened between those families. That's something I learned culturally as a kid before I even read Romeo and Juliet. But this play just sort of makes it like a teen romance,
Mhm.
you know, and it was kind of dull, you know. And then they made what was it, The Tempest. I hated that.
Mm.
And then finally I got to the good Shakespeare in like senior year. It was like, oh, I had a volunteer to do my term paper on Hamlet, but I wanted to get in. But then I read Othello in one class. I loved Othello, you know, and as I said, just start your writing. It's like they pick the worst examples of authors, you know, like another. Sorry for ranting on this. What's his face? Ernest Hemingway. Okay,
Mhm.
the first book they give you in high school to read is either For Whom the Bell Tolls, right? But they don't
Mhm.
give you his awesome book of short stories, you know, the
Right.
Kilimanjaro, or simple, straightforward. I mean, I like The Old Man in the Sea. It's an old man fighting for his livelihood in the ocean. You know, it reads fast. Start with those, and maybe you'll like the other stuff by the guy wrote,
Mhm.
and not be bored by it or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think the approach that they took for a lot of like the literature
Yeah.
in high school was I think for more modern kids, like they should have got like there's enough ancient literature out there. There's enough literature out there to help kids in high school love literature. They don't have to pick the ones that they've always picked because it's the ones they've always picked. Shakespeare wrote a lot. Hemingway wrote a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these authors wrote more than just Romeo and Juliet, Old Man and the Sea. And so it's frustrating when, like when you're in high school and you're like, oh, literature is boring and I hate reading and blah, blah. It's like, no, you don't. You just don't like that story.
Exactly. Sorry, so it was a sidetrack there.
No, it was a good sidetrack because it was on point with what we were talking about.
Right. Well, also, like, it goes into the fact that, like, the story of Beren and Luthien, like, Tolkien wrote different versions of the story, and like even between Ark and I, like I like some things as far as like in the Unfinished Tales version and the Silmarillion version, like that version, those two, just between those two versions of Beren and Luthien's story, like I liked one, like some things in the Unfinished Tales over the things in the Silmarillion and vice versa. But also like in the Book of Lost Tales, the Tale of Tinuviel, I really like some things in this version more than I like in the other two versions, or like vice versa, like, and it just kind of goes to show like different people like different things, and maybe one version of the story can be told in a way that Ark likes that I don't like, and I'm just like, oh, that's a boring story. Why do I want to read that? But Ark could be like, this is amazing.
Wow.
So,
Okay, I
like
see.
A little bit of personal share, but I won't go too far when I say this. So I'm in, I guess you would say, remission from mental health problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from when I was like very young, like 4 or 5 years old, and I told you that's how I found Lord of the Rings, until I was like 27 or so, I was either angry or numb. There was no other emotion.
Mm-hmm.
One of the few things that could get me to have real emotions was reading of Beren and Luthien.
Mm-hmm.
It would just break through. It was such a beautifully tragic tale,
Mm-hmm. And from that tale, the entirety of the Fellowship happens, because that's how we get Elrond, half elven, and that is how we get his brother, and I forget his brother's name because he changes it to some.
Elros.
Yes, Elros, Elrond and Elros. That's how we get Elros, because from Elros we get Aragorn, and from Elrond we get Arwen, and that right there is the
Arwen and Aragorn are descended from all of them.
Yep, all of them.
Yeah.
If I've shown a there was a lineage,
the super spaghetti lineage.
Yeah.
That the weird, some weird stuff happened in Tolkien's lineage.
Yeah, but it's so like that lineage is spread out over thousands of years. Like you get to the man part when Elros turns to be half man, half elf, but he chooses the man's destiny of at one point dying, and he establishes the line of Numenor. It's like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 generations. It's just like you have generation after generation, but you have Celebrian drops all the way down, and then there's Arwen at the very bottom, right next to Aragorn. And it's nice to look at and to think about. It doesn't really add anything to the story. It's just a nice picture to have.
Because this is something Jackson changed for the movies. So people have an impression from the movies versus the books. Aragorn was born to be the returned king. Everyone knew that was coming. Like there was prophecies and momentums and whatever you want to call it, building up to Aragorn. There's actually the best fan film of anything I've ever seen. It's called where the birth. It's about the birth of Aragorn, where they're desperately trying to tell it. Where Sauron had flooded the forest, tried to kill him when he was born, and so they had to send him to Rivendell. And it's a really cool fan film if you could ever find it. Well, it's obviously on YouTube, but Aragorn being the descendant of, for example, of all those people, specifically the reunification of Isildur's and Anarion's line. So he was the one true king, and then marrying someone who's descendants of the one true of their common. Like that was Tolkien did that just at the end to show this is the time and the place. You know what I mean? Like whatever was guiding it, whether it was Eru or the Valar or whatever. That like now is the time and this is the place. If you know that quote.
Yep.
Yeah. And when I learned that later on in Lord of the Rings, I was like, for everything I find more and more about Tolkien, it just more and more impresses me as a writer. Like the way he thinks about stuff, the way he like meticulously plans certain things. He'll freeform things, he's like any writer, but he'll like when he puts a particular detail in there, and then you read something like a year later, and you're like, wow, he thought he changed that one little detail, and it makes it so much better because he just tied it in just a little more.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Because
Absolutely right.
he cared about his mythos and he wanted it to
Yeah.
make sense.
Yep. Yeah.
But also, Sauron was a cat in one version of the story.
That's all that I really took from
Like,
this.
oh, Sauron was a cat. What? But like, so in this story, for those of you like, Sauron like is of course this big, large, angry kitty cat, and like,
where is it?
but what happens to him is he's defeated by a puppers.
Yep, a cat is defeated by a dog.
And then from
Told
that
from the
moment on,
viewpoint of a child to a wandering stranger.
but like after that, Sauron and his army of kitties is like they're made smaller into what we would understand to be cats, and from that moment on, all of the puppers would chase the kitties.
And that shows up later.
It's literally how the cat and dog fights happen. That is
cool, but that also we talked about. It shows up later when Huon shows up, and Sauron thinks he could turn into a dog and defeat Huon, and he loses to a dog again.
Yep.
Those throwbacks are such an amazing, But I also fit the lore at the time because the cat the Irish way is Sidhe, she. The Scottish say Sith, Sithi, which is what Lucas borrowed the term from. And I think the Welsh are CSI, if I remember right. The differences between the three dialects, So I usually, my family, I'm Italian, but I have Irish relatives. They'd say, so I tend to go with the Irish way of saying it, So the cat she were bigger cats.
Yes.
Yeah. And the regular cats, like your tabbies, so this is like an amazing way to blend it together,
Yep.
Oh yeah, like Tolkien decided, I'm going to tell the history of why puppers always chase kittens.
Yeah.
Like, what? Granted, like, I don't think that, like, if Sauron had stayed the same in later, like, renditions of the story, like, I think it would have been weird because of the theme he was going. But just, like, thinking about, like, modern, like, imagine Lord of the Rings and Sauron walking out to meet the armies of the Alliance as a large battle cat.
Yeah.
Now that's a what if scenario that I would watch.
Right? Man, like that would be so funny.
Here's something for you. Imagine Tolkien's in World War I in the trenches, and it's depressing, and he's scribbling his notes and giggling about all this little fairy tale. And sorry for my Begberish accent. People go to, "Oi, Johnny boy, what are you laughing at over there?"
Bombs going off, like missiles flying above, and he's just like,
so he tells us all this story, this little fairy tale story, and you all get a little laugh out of it.
Yep. Because as the world is going insane around you, you have to do something to stay sane.
Right. Oh man, but like I just understanding like the evolution of how like where Tolkien started telling this story and where he ended is just like, man, that's so cool. Yes. Juan versus Sauron.
It's perfect.
I just imagine like you as a viewer, you know nothing about Lord of the Rings, and you watch the Fellowship, and there's this flashback of this giant army, and like people are dying, and then all of a sudden you just hear meow, just walks out.
I can't say that I would be a big fan of the series after that.
Right. I think it would take away from the depth and the seriousness of the situation.
He comes out as an Ungoliant-sized cat.
Whoa.
Hops over the wall.
Like just climbs over.
Cat,
Now that would be cool.
That would be fun. Oh man. See, like I feel like we as fans, because when you know the lore, you can have crazy fun ideas like this, like, something that's not canon breaking, but it's funny as freaking heck, man.
Yeah, we respect it, so we can joke about it respectfully without tearing it down because we think it's crap or whatever, But I respect people who don't like it, like think it's crap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Jacob Ironside just sent me something. I'm going to show it to all of
It's the people who do what Rings of Prime are doing who are the ones I don't respect.
Right. So Jacob Ironside sent me a couple photos.
Oh my god.
God.
And then the next one.
Can you imagine being a Nazgul on guard near where Satan's kitties are?
Yep. Okay. All right.
Oh my god.
Now
I
I'm
love
just
it.
imagining Morgoth with Sauron on his lap, like Dr. Evil, just like stroking the
God.
kitty, and he's just like, that little Sauron, you can go on and
Like,
have your
yes,
fun
little,
later on.
yes, little Sauron, go play with your little bottle of yarn.
Yep, absolutely. What have
Oh
we
my
done?
god.
What have we done?
I mean, it's more accurate than what Rings of Primer's gonna do, and we're freaking talking about Sauron being a cat.
We've taken one of the coolest villains ever, like, created, and we've reduced him to being a cat.
A cute kitty, mind you.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, here we go. So I was skimming through to try to find a reference, like just to give you. So here we go. This is a quote from if I got my quote here. So, but if neither are to their liking, then tell me, where is Tinuviel, princess of fairies? There's the Celtic influence, and Baron, son of Egnor, which is well, that's the sentence completion. So there's your Celtic sort of influence. I mean, you could see it just,
Oh yeah, definitely as he was building the mythos. Like I imagine, like heavily heavily influenced by the Celtic mythology.
Well,
Have
I
you heard about
restricted
werewolf
out
cats?
because elves, so people don't know, they come from Norse and Germanic mythology. They're a very specific thing. There's kind of things like them in Celtic mythology, like the Danuan, the people of Dana, the ones who look human, basically. But they're not quite the way elves are. It's I don't want to be freaky. I'm just it's just fascinating to see how different cultures develop similar things.
Oh yeah, definitely. Unlike he was still playing with the idea of like fairies and fae, like especially like here reading like of course the previous Book of Lost Tales and this one, like it's still referred to as fae creatures, like fairies, things like that, and just how Lord of the Rings and the whole mythos could have been different, like with fairies, and fae creatures and all that. It's real.
If you want to know how Lord of the Rings could have been with Celtic influence, it's criminally not as publicized as it should be. It's the author who helped Christopher put the Silmarillion together, Guy Gabriel Kay. He wrote the Fiavanar Tapestry, which is basically like it's not a knockoff of the Lord of the Rings, but it emulates the Lord of the Rings, but uses mostly Celtic mythology with Arthurian stuff added onto it.
Ooh, yeah. And for those, and this is going to be a complete side note. I've been getting into this anime series. It's called Seven Deadly Sins. It's very much Arthurian, like based, and it's got like fairy stories, but it's from the Japanese perspective.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Like fairies are real,
really
and like King Arthur's real, and just like how all of that plays in, and it's just like. So if you like fairy stories,
season of that. Meliodas, is a character named Meliodas or something like that?
Yeah, Meliodas. Yep.
Yeah.
And there's also like with the Seven Deadly Sins, one of the kids' names is Lancelot. So like King Arthur's table, like it's so cool, like to see like so many different inspirations for fairy stories. And of course we're getting a bunch of stupid stuff. I should post that cat picture on your Twitter with the name Sauron and no additional context. I'm gonna do that. I must do that now. Give me a moment. Fapwell, I make this post on Twitter.
So I was looking at, because later it said that, have you heard about werewolf cat? It's real and looks cool. And I'm looking it up, and it looks like a regular cat, but let me just share my screen. Boom. Share screen. Share that one. Share. See? It looks like this. Interesting, but also It looks like one of those Egyptian cats, but with fur.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's all that I've been doing. I've been trying to find a good picture of a werewolf cat, and
See, when
I
he said
haven't found
werewolf
one.
cat, I thought it was a horror movie. I was like, they got a horror movie called Werewolf Cat.
I know, right? I know.
The cat gets bit by a werewolf and turns into like a werewolf cat.
Oh, that would be interesting.
I've seen thousands of horror films. I've never actually heard of anything like that. That would be amazing if someone did it.
That would be amazing. There are so many different cultures with different horror elements and different like boogeymen that need to be um explored.
Well, we could do that, or we could do like what what's our face is playing. Disa is playing. Ignore our own culture with its amazing backstories, and instead, change the British culture, the English culture. I mean, I like why didn't she play this role, not do the race thing, and use that to get maybe some of the amazing Iranian tales told. There's a couple I've read when I was
Right?
there, um, or stuff from Nigeria or whatever. There's some interesting stuff down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not up, not Nigeria, South Africa. She's from South Africa. I'm not up on the South African stuff. Other than there's this great Iron Maiden like metal band down there that does South African lore based songs.
Right.
That's the only thing I know about it. But the point I'm getting at is, you don't. What was the analogy come with? You don't make something more diverse by taking the same amount and dividing them on more people. You take more and add it in.
Yep.
So let's get all this other stuff from the other cultures. Let's get fantasies written. I mean, they've been written in other languages. Let's translate them. I mean, I'm one of the people who read the Journey of the West as a translation, but let's get that spread out there. That's from China. If people don't know, that's what Dragon Ball Z and a lot of those was based on.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's get I mean, I know we all probably heard of, if not read, the 1001 Arabian Nights and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get some more of those tales made. They haven't made any good movies based on that stuff in decades.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm out of things to talk about unless you have another article, Mando. Do you have another article?
I closed all of my tabs. Dang it.
Let me look. See.
I'll use my new power of Linux to find an article for us.
Let me.
Also, my computer is being stupid and not letting me download the freaking image from Twitter. Gosh dang it. Virus protection, you're doing too good of a job. Okay, take two.
All right, so share the screen. This is one that I don't know if you've gone over. Let me tell me if we have already. The Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power.
Oh, I saw that one. I thought about going over that one, but yeah, that's a good one to go over.
So this will probably mode. You know what? At least I have ad block on. So
I do now.
Uh-huh. Sure. So this was released August 26, 2022. Not bad. Only a day old. That's not bad. We're less than a week away from the release of Amazon Prime Videos. It's such a long title. Amazon Prime Videos, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Ridiculous. Okay, so it is set thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's trilogy. That literally makes no sense on how they can have that. Dad, why am I doing this to myself? Mando, help me. You must help me.
You want my help?
I mean, yeah, that's not asking.
I was trying to find a positive article for us to talk about.
keep searching. Keep searching. Okay, let's just critique the wonderful scale armor. Like there's totally not a crease right here because
I remember looking at this article and thinking, oh, that poor horse.
No, that poor woman. Well, that's not real armor anyway. But
yeah,
you don't wear metal armor against your bare skin.
Nope. You will chafe yourself raw.
not yet that. Plus, it's not. It's designed to have at least, at the very least, padded like a double. What's the linen armor? The padding
Yep.
to under that, so that if anything gets through this crack in the armor, that could absolutely absorb the blow. The ancient armorers, I mean, they figure stuff out. You know.
Oh yeah, they did. Definitely through trial and error because I'm gonna shoot you with a bow and arrow. Let's see if this works. That type of trial and error. Episode 1 and 2 will be Friday, September 2nd, which is next week. September 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th, 7th, and 14th. Wow. So that's how short this season is. Only 8 episodes. That's amazing. That's amazing that this filth is going to be that short, and we're gonna tear it apart, and then hopefully they don't ever make anything else like this again. Hopefully when they're reviewing what to do with Amazon Prime Video, hopefully what they'll do is they'll stop the Wheel of Time season 3 and 4, because that is also a travesty. Early reviews. Oh, I wonder who could have done the early reviews. TV critics have already gotten the chance to screen the first 2 episodes, and they're taking to Twitter to share their initial reactions. So far, the reviews have been overwhelmingly positive, with a few negative caveats about the episodes being a little slow or hard to follow. Besides that, critics have been wowed by the new series, which ups the anticipation for the rest of us who have to wait for the release date. I want to click this link to see what the reviews are. I really do. So this is Stephen Weintraub talking about that. And then Tamara Fuentes.
Is that the dagger she pulled out of our brother's body? Is that what we're supposed to infer from this?
I'm thinking
guess.
the same thing.
So yeah,
like, that's got to be the dagger. That's
gotta be. So I have done the thing, Jacob Ironside. It is on the Twitch twats. Sauron's true form is on the Twitch twat.
Oh my word! The female dwarf representation, I love it. I mean the female.
I'm like, that's a weird dwarf, man.
It's the same thing. Dwarf
like
or
lower face or whatever. I don't know how to even describe that.
And that is just really, really sad looking armor. Even if it's like decorative, it still looks sad.
Decorative armor wouldn't look like that. That's sad. That's not decorative.
And they're all dressed in silk linens. Like why? I just. What do you think that is? Do you think that that's Gandalf's hand?
So, okay. I talked about this, I think, in a video maybe a month and a half ago. But Meteor Man, about who Meteor Man could be, and indications of what was Sauron falling from somewhere and all that. And then there was the whole, is it Gandalf or is it another Istari thing? Because if you read through all the stuff, technically, before Numenor sunk, Gandalf could have been going to and from Middle Earth, and because he was very close to the elves, he was Manwë's right-hand man, so he would be talking to the elves from Manwë were there. You could, in the Second Age, the whole goal was to try to convince the rest of the Noldor to come back to Valinor sooner rather than later. You know,
right?
So I could see if they did that with this. If they didn't call him Gandalf, they just called him Aloran, showed him his spirit talking to the elves and saying this war is come home. You know what I mean? That would have been something creative to do, because that kind of loosely showed something in Tolkien lore that kind of could have happened based on what we read. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. But whoever, I have a feeling that they are basically going to have a Gandalf in name only, and not the opposite name only. Gandalf not in name only, leading the hobbits to the Shire. I feel that's a heartbeat to the Shire. I have a feeling that's exactly what that storyline is going to be.
Oh my gosh! I think I know the final blip of the last episode of the last season. It's going to be the Harfeets around Bag End.
It'll be them all showing up. It'll be the white ones showing up after the black ones have been killed by Sauron.
I mean, they have to. They have to because no one in the Shire is darker. No one.
Yeah.
There has to be
They're
some
gonna
sort of
have
genocide that
Sauron.
happens.
Yeah, they're gonna have
Yeah,
something
the
like Chris
dwarves
came
and the
over with
elves,
black
there's
members
there's
and you were with. They're gonna have them say that sometime in the second season. I bet, because how else could this fit? Well, then again, they're rewriting to say they always were that way, and in their dreamlands, when they thought they were going to get the Lord of the Rings to make the movies, they probably would have had all the elves be black as well.
right.
So that could make sense there.
But those wouldn't be Tolkien's elves. Those would be different. Those would be dark elves. Tolkien, like
No, not dark elves. Dark elves are supposed to look Scandinavian. Dark elves were called dark elves because they lived underground. It's the only
they are. That's the only reason they would be considered even dark elves is because they were underground, which also like there wouldn't have been dark skinned dwarves.
Wait. Are dwarves the dark elves? Is that what we've just concluded?
You've accidentally stumbled into actual Norse lore there, because we don't actually know the lore. We only know the literary sources from collections by Christian scholars, and there's some debate were dwarves just the dark elves,
right? Yeah, because there are some mythologies that I've seen where elves are just as good as of craftsmen as dwarves are, and they look similar to the elves. They're just called dwarves, or like what Skyrim did. Skyrim made them a race of elves that were called dwarves, but they were elves. So the giant Skyrim debate on whether or not Skyrim got it right or not.
The Norse mythology, it's all fascinating stuff, to pour through all the different versions of it and stuff. And
hi, stop sharing. Just gonna show everyone everything.
Everything all over again.
I got something a little positive I can share. So I'm gonna try to sell you guys on a sort of sci-fi, those like science fiction, but it's fantasy type of thing. It's a TV show. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but it's called C. And once I get the screen up there, share screen, window. Oh, Lynx does it the same way. Is it this one? There it is. Yeah. So I got, you should see Jason Momoa there. Yeah, okay.
There we go.
Yep. So I initially didn't watch this series when it came out in 2019. I think it's on Apple TV or something like that. I watched through alternative means, by the way. But because it sounded kind of stupid. And I like Jason Momoa as an actor, but he keeps being saddled with bad structures. So I figured this was another one. And then I did a live stream watching the first episode of this live, but I wanted to be honest about it, so that people would see it. And that was about a month, maybe 3 weeks ago, before I got my illness issue. And because I read something about people should give this a chance, because here's the premise, okay? Some sort of disease or virus or whatever happens to humans around our time where they all go blind. And obviously civilization collapses and whatever. And this is centuries later, and some humans have survived. They're being born blind. And so the premise seems a little, this can't really work. But then when you watch it, and there's some flaws in whatever I talk about in my first episode live review. But the writers make a conscious effort to show that these are blind people compensating. Some of them have exceptional hearing, like beyond what we could even do even if we went blind now. Some of them they all have exceptional sense. Like the way they know each other is by their sense of smell. They constantly go in close and scent each other now, and memorize other sense of smell, Or when they're fighting, like he plays Baba Voss, the main character, and if you saw a sword fight with visual people when they cut some guy's throat, they just pull it through and the guy, right? Because he's blind and can't see what's going on, he'll trace the sword around the whole guy's neck so he knows where he is and where the guy's body is when he falls, Or when they're fighting in trees and you see like a sword or axe hit a tree, they won't just stop and pull it back. They'll keep it on there and help it guide them around the tree in the middle of the fight. And also, and that's the big stuff. There's a lot, they made real attention to show that these people living in this blind world, how they have to cooperate together, and then the real vulnerability when they're alone. he's attacked by a bear, and the bear was going to kill him and his two babies. But then the one human who could see, that's why it's called see. He was the first human born who could see in centuries, and plot spoiler, but he's going on fathering children who could also see. That's one of his missions, right? And he gives two of those children to Bob of Us to raise till the first episode takes place. So it's a time skip episode to get them to adulthood, basically.
Interesting.
But when I did my live review of it, I was being honest, talking about the flaws and whatever. But I got in, I said, they're making it's not woke because they can't even see skin color at this point,
right?
And they constructed an interesting world. They've gone feudal again because they obviously without sight you can't do our technology. The blind aspects of how they you see when they travel in groups. Everyone has stabs and they have wayfinders feeling these out. They have special hearers. And they have names for them. Like one of the sons in a scene later in the series, he can see, but he's captured by slavers because he's not a good fighter yet. So he sees something, and the slavers, well, how did you know that? He goes, I'm a, and he said the name for the people who are listeners. He can hear stuff Or there's a great fight scene when Bob Voss goes to rescue his son, and he takes a whole bunch of pebbles and throws them out where all the guys are, and he hears them kicking the pebbles around when they're moving in the middle of the fight. So he knows and he uses that as part of maneuvering.
That's cool.
I don't know spoil the whole thing, but I think people might want to give this show a chance. The third season just came out. It does get a little, I guess you would say, raunchy about some things. But then again, they showed. I thought they were having a sex cult about one of the leaders, but it's not. It's just that she's crazy, So they eventually figure that out, and it is for adults. So it's not for your young ones. I don't know what you to watch, but it's not explicit content, but they do have obvious sex occurring at times.
Right.
They imply it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
as with most forms of media nowadays.
Yeah, but at least unlike Rings of Prime, these are actually attractive people. So,
Bo was asking, where can one watch this show?
I believe it's on Apple TV, or is it Hulu on Apple TV?
And Emperor Doomsday says that they will check it out.
Yeah.
All right, so we are about at the 2-hour mark. So, Matt, Unbearable 73, that shouldn't be. I will let you go first. What do you have to plug? What is it that you want? Of course, you have told us about this really cool TV show. What do you want to plug? What's going on?
I'm going to tell everyone out there listening, for September 2nd, which is the day of Tolkien's death, everyone should do a video on what Tolkien means to them, maybe even how they found Lord of the Rings, and a positive video. Don't talk about Rings of Prime. I'm saying do your Rings of Prime video separate. But
right.
We should all post on September 2nd maybe what Tolkien means to me or something like that. Like I did a video called My Star Wars Day, which is like 5 minutes long about what Star Wars meant to me on Star Wars Day. So on Tolkien Day, if you want to call it that, every one of us should do something like that. A short video, doesn't have to be the most elaborate thing. Just do a little script, maybe find some graphics, and just say the positive meaning of this great author and his work to us.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So I'll be working on that. I'll be working on getting that ready for next week. You might start seeing some sports videos pop up on the channel as the Yankees approach playoff time and the Giants come back in the season of me ranting as they all lose. But
I mean, my St. Louis Cardinals this year for baseball didn't do so well, so I understand.
Also hoping this week to get my Hawk the Slayer. That's one of my all-time favorite fantasy movies from the 80s when I was a kid. But I can show off one more thing. So obviously the Blu-ray for Hawk the Slayer. That's not what we're showing off. A little pile of comic books here. 5. Okay. So, Judge Dredd, the company that does Judge Dredd magazine, right? They published a comic book sequel to Hawk the Slayer, written by Garth Ennis and Henry Flint.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I read it, and it's a nice little sequel. It's not, standard Garth Ennis, and I might do another one. So I want to do a review of this, one of my all-time favorite fantasy movies, and then follow up right over a review of the sequel, the Hawk the Slayer comic book. That's on my agenda.
All right. Awesome.
And that's basically, plus the usual. I'll have another review of House of the Dragon too. The usual stuff you expect from me now that I'm not, unconscious in bed from my illness.
There we go. Good.
All right, Ark.
Yep. Just go ahead and follow me on twitch.tv/Arkasul and on Twitter as well at Arkasul because that's just what I do. I'm mainly on Twitter, making fun of people that are trying to say that Eric July is a grifter and that we're all just grifters doing our grifting business. I find that to be both sad and hilarious.
We should make T-shirts calling us grifters, being
Absolutely.
like, "Yeah, I'm a grifter. Sure, whatever."
Buy my shirt.
Yeah.
Buy my shirt. Make it a statement of fact. But yeah, we go ahead and go live sometime tonight on Twitch. Going to be playing some games. Don't know what, but we're just going to go live because I haven't been live in quite a bit. I've been missing streaming on Twitch. Lots been going on IRL, and so I just wanna get back and connect with everybody. So
heck yeah,
that's all I've got going on.
All right. Emperor Doomsday, the Sons of Grift. Yes. So next week, which is the 3rd, I will be bringing on my friend Smile a While for me onto the channel. We will be discussing homeschooling and her experience with homeschooling, why she supports it, kind of a little bit about her. She's been floating around in various chats. And she's also going to talk about what pieces of literature have had the biggest impact on her life, and what does she love about Tolkien? What does she appreciate about the Lord of the Rings and stuff like that? Because of course we're going to talk about a little bit of the Lord of the Rings, but that will not be the focus of the show next week. Next week's focus will be homeschooling, because I was not homeschooled. I know nothing about homeschooling, and I think more people should understand what actual homeschooling is and get rid of some of the misconceptions out there about it. So I'm excited. I'm gonna be just as educated as you guys are next week because my friend, when she gets started talking about stuff, she's just gonna keep going, and we're just gonna follow along and stay for the ride. So I'm excited for next week's episode of Literary Souls. You all are always welcome to join us if you want to be on the show as well. Just let me know, and I will talk to her and see what all she has planned to discuss. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you can always find me on twitch.tv/The Untamable Life. I do also periodically, I will get back into posting things on YouTube. I'm just not really sure right now what to post on YouTube, because if I try and post some of my streams from Twitch to YouTube, they're going to get copyright struck almost immediately, because I play a lot of Star Wars games and just games that have Pirates of the Caribbean theme, and I just don't want to have to spend 5 to 6 hours a day editing a 20-minute video because it's got a Star Wars song on it. So we will see what ends up happening with the YouTube channel. Until then, definitely going to see Literary Souls almost every Saturday morning, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time.
One more thing important. So, for prefaces, Lord of the Rings is one book, not a trilogy to me. So, right. My favorite fantasy trilogy is by Patricia A. McKillop. I actually did a review of that on my site way back when my audio sucked in the beginning. So eventually I'll redo those. But I've been either rereading stuff from this author that I haven't read, or rereading some of our stuff. Her name is Patricia McKillop. She's an all-time great fantasy writer. This is her most well-known book, The Forgotten Beasts of Eld, and I want to do a review on that. So there's another author, a classic fantasy author that doesn't get enough verbal play, so to speak, and reading. I talk about a lot of people, but she's one of the most emotionally draws you in type of writers you'll ever read.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, everyone, bye. Have a fantastic weekend and rest of your day.